The flickering fluorescent lights of the fellowship hall cast long, dancing shadows across the rows of folding chairs, each one meticulously aligned. A faint scent of stale coffee and old hymnals hung in the air, a familiar aroma to anyone who had ever spent a Sunday morning within the hallowed walls of the First Community Church. It was a place of solace, of simple faith, a bedrock in the quiet town of Havenwood. But what if the very foundations of comfort and community concealed something far more sinister? What if the most trusted among them, the one who embodied unwavering devotion, was a wolf in sheep's clothing, meticulously orchestrating a macabre ballet of terror right under their unsuspecting noses? This is the chilling tale of Arthur Penhaligon, the seemingly benevolent church volunteer who for years hid a serial killer's gruesome rituals in plain sight. Arthur Penhaligon. The name itself conjures images of an unassuming, kindly gentleman. And indeed, to the residents of Havenwood, that was precisely who Arthur was. He was the first to arrive for early morning scripture readings, the last to leave after evening choir practice. He organized the annual bake sale, volunteered for every soup kitchen shift, and often stayed late to ensure the church grounds were immaculate. His smile was warm, his eyes gentle, and his demeanor unfailingly polite. He was, by all accounts, the epitome of a good Christian man, a pillar of the community. But beneath that meticulously crafted facade lay a darkness so profound, so utterly depraved, it would shatter the town's perception of innocence forever. Our story begins not with a scream, but with a whisper. A whisper that grew into a murmur, then a worried conversation, and finally, a frantic alarm. It was the summer of 2008, and a series of disappearances began to plague Havenwood. The victims were always young women, all in their early 20s, new to town, and often found themselves drawn to the welcoming embrace of the First Community Church. First, there was Sarah Jenkins, a bright-eyed art student who had just moved from out of state. Then came Emily Carter, a shy librarian seeking a fresh start. And finally, Jessica Miller, a vibrant young teacher, eager to contribute to the community. Each woman vanished without a trace, leaving behind only a chilling void and a growing sense of dread that gripped the heart of Havenwood. The local police, led by the seasoned but increasingly perplexed Detective Miles Corbin, initially treated the cases as isolated incidents. Runaways, perhaps, or victims of random opportunists. But as the third woman disappeared within a span of 6 months, a pattern began to emerge, subtle yet insidious. All 3 women had attended the First Community Church. All 3 had spoken to Arthur Penhaligon. And all 3 had seemingly vanished after leaving a church event. Coincidence or something far more sinister? Detective Corbin, a man who believed in facts, not hunches, found himself wrestling with a disquieting feeling. How could such a respected figure, a man so deeply embedded in the spiritual fabric of the town, be connected to such heinous acts? It seemed impossible, a betrayal too profound to comprehend. Yet the evidence, or lack thereof, kept circling back to the church and by extension, to Arthur. The investigation was a slow, agonizing crawl. There were no witnesses, no ransom demands, no obvious motives. It was as if these women had simply ceased to exist. Detective Corbin and his team meticulously combed through every detail, interviewing every church member, every neighbor, every acquaintance. And with each interview, Arthur Penhaligon's name arose, always in glowing terms. Arthur, a saint. He'd give you the shirt off his back. The kindest man you'll ever meet. The praises were unanimous, unwavering, and utterly misleading. The police began to focus their efforts on the church itself. They obtained search warrants, meticulously examining every nook and cranny. They found nothing. No blood, no signs of struggle, no hidden compartments. The church remained a sanctuary, seemingly untouched by the horrors unfolding around it. But Detective Corbin couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. The sheer normalcy of Arthur's life, his unwavering devotion, almost felt too perfect. One evening, after another fruitless search, Detective Corbin sat in his office, poring over old photographs of church events. There was Arthur, beaming, always in the center of the frame, always helpful, always present. A particular photo caught his eye. Arthur, meticulously arranging flowers in the church's small, seldom-used chapel, a space primarily used for private prayer and occasional small ceremonies. The chapel, with its stained glass windows depicting biblical scenes, was a quiet, almost forgotten corner of the sprawling church complex. It was a place of peace, a refuge. Or was it? A sudden, unsettling thought pricked at Corbin's mind. What if the very act of hiding wasn't about concealment, but about transformation? What if the ritual wasn't about the leaving of a trace, but the erasure of one? He remembered a detail from Sarah Jenkins's file. She had been particularly fond of the chapel, often spending time there alone after choir practice. Emily Carter, too, had mentioned finding solace in its quiet solitude. And Jessica Miller, a new convert, had expressed her desire to explore the church's less frequented areas. Corbin decided to revisit the chapel, this time with a different perspective. He didn't look for what was there, but for what wasn't. He paid attention to the subtle anomalies, the things that were out of place in a seemingly perfect setting. The chapel had a small, ornate altar, a relic from the church's founding. Behind it, a tapestry depicting the Last Supper hung, slightly faded with age. Below the tapestry, a worn wooden floorboard seemed a fraction of an inch lower than the others. It was barely perceptible, the kind of detail only an obsessive mind would notice. With a surge of adrenaline, Corbin pushed on the floorboard. It gave way with a faint creak, revealing a shallow cavity beneath. His heart pounded in his chest as he reached inside, his fingers brushing against something cold and metallic. He pulled out a small, intricately carved wooden box. Inside, carefully arranged on a bed of velvet, were 3 small, silver lockets. Each locket contained a miniature photograph: Sarah Jenkins, Emily Carter, and Jessica Miller. He also found a series of meticulously handwritten notes, detailing dates, times, and chilling observations about each woman's habits, their vulnerabilities, their fears. This was it, the killer's trophy case, hidden in plain sight, under the very altar where parishioners sought spiritual guidance. The discovery sent shockwaves through Havenwood. Arthur Penhaligon was immediately arrested. The once beloved church volunteer, the man who embodied unwavering faith, now stood exposed as a monstrous predator. The interrogation was a grueling affair. For days, Arthur maintained his innocence, his calm demeanor never wavering. He spoke of God's will, of being falsely accused, of a cruel misunderstanding. But the evidence, though circumstantial, was damning. The lockets, the notes, the undeniable pattern. As the investigation deepened, a horrifying picture began to emerge. Arthur Penhaligon had not just been a church volunteer. He had been a meticulous predator who used his position of trust to identify and target his victims. He would spend weeks, sometimes months, observing them, learning their routines, their desires, their vulnerabilities. He would offer comfort, guidance, a listening ear, slowly weaving himself into their lives. And when the time was right, when their guard was down, he would lure them to the chapel, a place of supposed sanctuary, and commit his unspeakable acts. The details were too gruesome to recount, but the psychological manipulation, the betrayal of trust, was perhaps the most disturbing aspect of his crimes. The police discovered a hidden compartment in Arthur's home, a secret room behind a false wall in his study. Inside, they found a chilling collection of personal effects belonging to his victims. A diary, a favorite scarf, a small hand-painted ceramic bird. But more disturbingly, they found a series of journals filled with Arthur's own twisted philosophy. He believed he was performing a sacred duty, a cleansing ritual. He saw himself as an instrument of a higher power, choosing those he deemed worthy for a spiritual ascension. His faith, once a source of comfort for the community, had become a terrifying justification for his gruesome deeds. The trial of Arthur Penhaligon was a media circus. The town of Havenwood, once a symbol of peaceful community, was now synonymous with unspeakable horror. The prosecution presented a mountain of evidence, connecting Arthur to the disappearances, to the lockets, to the journals, and ultimately to the murders. The defense attempted to paint him as a confused, devout man, manipulated by others, but the sheer meticulousness of his planning, the chilling lack of remorse, and the overwhelming evidence against him sealed his fate. Arthur Penhaligon was convicted on 3 counts of murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The aftermath in Havenwood was profound. The First Community Church, once a beacon of hope, struggled to regain its footing. The trust that had been so easily given was now shattered, replaced by suspicion and fear. How could they have been so blind? How could a man, so deeply entrenched in their lives, so seemingly good, harbor such darkness? The story of Arthur Penhaligon serves as a chilling reminder that evil can wear the most benevolent of masks, and that sometimes the most terrifying monsters are not found in the shadows, but in the most brightly lit corners of our lives. It forces us to confront the uncomfortable truth that even in places of sacred trust, malevolence can fester, hidden in plain sight, waiting for its moment to strike. The echoes of his betrayal still reverberate through Havenwood, a permanent scar on the heart of a town that once believed in the unwavering goodness of its neighbor. If you find yourself drawn to stories that peel back the layers of human darkness, that expose the unsettling truths lurking beneath the surface of everyday life, then you're in the right place. Consider subscribing to our channel and hitting that notification bell to join our community of mystery solvers as we continue to delve into the most shocking and inexplicable cases. The legacy of Arthur Penhaligon is not just one of murder, but of a profound betrayal of trust. It's a story that forces us to question our perceptions, to look beyond the surface, and to acknowledge that true evil can often hide behind the most convincing of facades. The carefully aligned chairs in the fellowship hall, the faint scent of old hymnals, the warm smile of a trusted volunteer, all these elements, once symbols of comfort, now carry a chilling undertone, a silent testament to the horrors that unfolded within the very heart of the community. The town of Havenwood, forever scarred, continues its slow path to healing, but the ghost of Arthur Penhaligon, the friendly church volunteer, will forever haunt its quiet corners. A stark reminder that sometimes the most terrifying monsters are the ones we invite into our lives.